Good morning, my tiki-talkies. How are my tiki-talkies this morning? You guys, I am so excited. Oh, you do not want to see that. Okay, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit for you. I am doing my camera a little bit differently, which I think is going to result in a better user experience for you all. But you don't want to see the ladies overhanging the desk. We had such a great session yesterday. It was so much fun. I hope that you all also thought it was so much fun. Really enjoyed it. We got to talk about so many fun things, and I just really had a blast, and I think you all did too. So this morning, I have some things I want to talk about, but before I get started, I want to make sure that I have some viewers on here first, and I have none. So I'm going to wait for some of you to get on. And drink some of my coffee. So, how is everybody this morning? What are we doing today? Are we looking forward to the weekend? I certainly hope so. I was thinking maybe we could use the palette scout again today. I'm trying to incorporate that more into my work because it is fun and it helps me step outside my comfort zone of the colors that I tend to use all the time anyway. I don't know. Okay, it's weird that we're 2 minutes in and I haven't even had a single visitor. Okay, there we go. So the other day, if you'll recall, we used the palette scout to come up with our color palette for this. And we used these 3 colors and it was friggin' gorgeous. It turned out lovely, didn't it? So we used Neptune as our base color. So, and that was for this and for this. And these are the colors I feel like I always go towards. So today, let's see what we'll go towards instead. So I'm kind of thinking by looking at this color card that I should try to step out of my comfort zone again. I think I'm going to blindly pick a color out of this deck. I am not looking and I don't know what is where. I don't even know what to do. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, let's go with this. Ocean. You guys, we just used ocean. And ocean is my comfort zone. What the heck? Okay, well, I guess we're going ocean again. Maybe we should do something different with ocean. So the way this works is it has this card. And ocean is the color. It shows you the pure intensities on this side and the tones on this side. And then it will show you all the different types of color palettes on this side. Complement, monochrome, analogous, split, complement, and triadic. But you guys, I really don't want to stay doing the same color tone that I have been doing forever. So I feel like I really want to do something else. Like seriously, I always do that one. Let's maybe try a green because I don't tend to go for green. What's Quetzal look like? Let's try Quetzal. I think that's how you say it. Let's see here. Quetzal. Okay, shoot. Let's bring that one out. Let's put this one back in here. So Quetzal, let's take a look at this. So Quetzal's complement is whatever this one is. And in order to find out what that one is, we come over here and we see that it's hibiscus. And we know that it's hibiscus because this is a square and this is a square. And then we can see there's monochrome, analogous, split complement, and triadic. So this is pretty interesting. Trying to decide which one I think I would want to go with. I'm kind of leaning towards this. I think the analogous is obviously pretty. But the triadic seems to be where I feel like I can get the most bang for my buck most of the time. And it's usually where I feel like I don't want to go. So this is typically a color palette that I don't want to go. The Chaos Stream. Yeah. Hi, BZ. Good morning. So I feel like that's what I'm going to go for. We'll do it. Okay. So in order to figure those out, let's go over here. So the purple would be kohlrabi and this would be ember. So let's head over to kohlrabi here. Find that color. It's going to be a purple. Where is it? Dun, 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 dun. Here we go. So I'm going to pull out all the kohlrabis. And then the other one, what did I say it was? Ember. Let's see here. That's flame. Ember. Here we go. All right. I'm going to pull out all the embers. And then I'm going to move everything else off. Let me bring in all the petals too. Do your thing. Do your thing. Okay, shoot. Okay, shoot. Okay, shoot. Yeah, trying to step out of my comfort zone here. I blindly pulled one, and guess which one I picked? Ocean. You know, the one I always pick. The teal / turquoise / blue that I always go for. So I was like, no, we got to try something else. So I decided to go for this because this is not a color I would ever reasonably go for. So that's why I decided it was time. Okay, so we've got these 3 color sets we're going to go with. And we'll keep that. We're going to move these out of the way. So these were from these. I'm going to move these out of the way. I was hoping for some more of my Regos to get on because I had some things I wanted to talk about. But I'm still waiting. Still waiting. So in the meantime, we're going to do this. Okay, let's move this out of the way because we don't need that. All right, so I'm thinking bright. Let's see here. I painted a little desert sunset. You did? Amazing. Dude, your shrimp, your Chihuahua shrimp cracked me up. I reposted it, and I know you saw that. And I told my husband about it. It was so funny. Anyway, my husband is not a TikToker. He is not a tiki-talkie. I am missing a kohlrabi. Where is it? Speaking of lupines, mine is finally growing. I think it's going to bloom in the next couple days. Not that that is a big deal to you guys, but kind of into it. So yeah. Where's my kohlrabi? Not that. Oh no. Here it is. All right. Okay, so you're welcome. Oh, good. I'm glad you did. Okay. So the way these work, for those of you that are still watching, if you're even still watching, is each set of colors has 5 colors or 5 shades. And there are 2 sides. So you have the pure intensity side, and then you have the tone side. So if you have, for example, the card, and we're using Quetzal, but I'm going to show you this example. You have the pure intensities here, and then you have the tones here. So you'll know which side you're working with based on if it has no dot or if it has a dot. So these are the pure intensities here. And then if you flip them over, these are your tones. So this is the one that I picked, and we are going to try to put together a little color palette based on these because I'm trying to be a drama queen with the triadics. So we're going to use this one for sure because why not? And as I'm looking at these, I'll probably end up going with the number 3 here because I like that one. And of course, as you're doing these, you can increase or decrease the intensity of them. And you can bring in and add other shades of it. But what I like to do first is kind of decide which ones I'm going to do so that I can have the watercolors lined up that I'm going to plan to use. Because I do have a different watercolor I would use for this one, for example, than I would for this one. So I think that's a good idea to bring that one in. Let's just bring this one in as well. Like for this one, I'd probably use sap green, but for this one, I might use perylene green mixed with a little bit of, hi, Lori Co. I might use a little bit of quinacridone gold mixed into it because perylene green is a little bit more of a blue green and this has a little bit more yellow in it. So just kind of thinking in advance of those. So I think these are the ones we're going to use. Let's see how this turns out, you guys. All right. So these are the color tones we are working with. Ta-da! All right, let me just do this over here. And I'm going to take this and put these back in the palette scout. I was hoping to see some more of my Regos on this morning because I had some things I wanted to talk about. One of which was a good surprise. So hopefully they will get on at some point this morning and I will let you all know what that is. In the meantime, I'm just going to sit here and sip on my coffee. So this is a bookmark that I did a couple weeks ago. And I was thinking about doing another version of something similar to this because I really liked it. And yesterday we had such a good session and we talked all things metallic watercolors, finishing your watercolor paintings, what is considered professional versus not professional. What you doing for your gold? That is a great question. Let me bring it back. Where? Seriously. For this one, this is an acrylic paint that I put into a squeeze bottle. Lori, you're here. Good morning. I put into a squeeze bottle, and that squeeze bottle has 3 different sizes of these little metal tips that you can screw on. And I pipe them on. Lori is here. Oh my gosh, that's going to be amazing, BZ. I saw you doing the Doberman, actually. Or I saw you post, rather. Yeah, Lori's in the house. Lori, I have some news that I was hoping to share once some more of my regulars got on. It's not like big news. It's more like something exciting that I get to share with you all from yesterday's live. BZ, I don't know if you saw these, but here's some of that metallic foil. Let's see. Oh, thanks, Lori. Thanks, BZ. Why are you two so good to me? Yes, you definitely do need to get that foil. No. This is foil. This is the acrylic. The foil is definitely going to get you that shiny reflection over this. So this gives you more of like that 3D. Yeah, so this is really more of like a 3D raised, if I could kind of show you. Let me get a white so you can kind of see that. You see how it's almost like a puff paint. It's raised. Yes. Whereas this This is what you want for a grill, but you want to get it in silver or gold. Flat and shiny. Yep. That's going to be this. So you're going to need an adhesive sizing, which this is the one that I use. Speedball Mona Lisa metal leaf adhesive size. And then I apply mine with, again, same bottle with the piping. However, I might, in your situation, apply it with a paintbrush. It goes on white, dries clear. That's what she said. So, yeah. Ow. Dang, that hurt. Okay, what I was going to say was, Lori sent a surfer penguin. No way. Amazing. I have never seen the surfer penguin. Oh. Ayo. Okay, so today, after yesterday's amazing live, I thought there were a couple of things that we could do. First of all, we picked this really ugly triadic palette that I'm hoping will not be ugly. And I wanted to show you what hot press watercolor paper looks like. Did you see the skull with gilded teeth? That's the experiment I did before I committed to the door. I did not see that. It sounds like I need to go look at your page again. I saw quite a bit of your work, but I probably saw it and it's just not sticking to my memory. I was probably more enamored with the pets, to be honest. So that's probably why that has stuck to my mind. The Doberman. I'm going to cut this in half so we're kind of making something a little smaller. Because these lives get long when I'm doing a full size. You know what I mean? All right. So this is the arches. Because you guys, since I started using the arches again, I'm falling in love. So it's happening. This is the hot press, 140 pound. It's real smooth. So we're going to use this. And I'm going to grab my tape, as always. Lori says, Beezy, ooh, I need to see that. I'm stuck in a skull theme right now. Let's see here. Beezy says, it's okay, I'm 36 and I have generational trauma. Memory issues abound. Yeah, I mean, here's the deal. I don't have like generational trauma, but I'm 42 and I'm just a middle-aged baddie. And I just accept that it is what it is. You know, I'm just getting old. So, let's see here. Feral Mom says, ooh, I need to see that. I'm stuck in a skull theme right now. Then Beezy says, Arche is the only kind of paper I use anymore. LOL. Yeah, you know, for day to day, I like the cheap papers, but I've been trying to, you know, show you guys some more of like the more in-depth stuff that I do. And when I do that, I feel like I only get the results I really want when I'm using the arches. And, well, now I'm kind of just like, I want the arches. I want to do the arches. So now I'm just being a brat. I'm just like such an arches snob. Why am I so cool? You know. Okay. I'll swatch in some hoblob cheap stuff. Yeah. Lal says, I am traumatized. Don't get me wrong. I have a little bit of trauma, but it's not anything like what I'm sure other people have. I'd say my biggest trauma was from my son's birth. But that is a whole other story in and of itself. You guys know. Okay. So I think that we have a good base going here that I'm just going to go ahead and tell you what the surprise was going to be, because I don't think we're going to get any more Marregos on here. I had reached out to Lindsay from Artistic Isle. You guys know this. She's the one that we did all these metallic watercolors with. And I had asked her, you know, what is her thing about like when does she restock and all that stuff. So we've been chit-chatting. I ended up ordering last week, I think it was, for that peacock I've been working on, and ordered a few other things. So she sent me a message the other day when she shipped it, and she said, I just shipped out your order and a few extras. And I was like, ooh, okay. And I texted her, or I sent her a message yesterday. I was like, by the way, we ended up spending like the entire time on my live this morning talking about your metallics. So, you know, I pinned your website. Hopefully, you know, you see some people coming through. So she said, just so you know, I would be happy to send your followers a 10% off code. And I was like, yes, please. And I said, if you can send it to me by this morning, I can share it on my live, and I'm sure they would love that. And so she unfortunately hasn't read it yet. So once I have that 10% off code, I will share it with you all. So if you want to go and get any of these metallic watercolors that I talk about all the time, because you know I love it, then you can certainly do that and have yourself a lovely 10% off code. So yeah, I'm gonna zoom in here and we're gonna get started. All right, I'm going in with this Neptune 3/4 inch flat brush. I'm just gonna get the paper wet. Let's see here. Oh, you know what? Normally I would swatch the crap out of these colors. I should have done that before I started doing this, but I didn't. Oopsie daisy. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this. This is already dry at the bottom. So I'm just going to continue because it is very absorbing. And so we'll probably have to go over it quite a few times. And so the difference, let's talk about the difference between hot press and cold press paper. Hot press paper is very textured and cold press paper is very smooth. There is extra grainy cold press paper that you can get through Arches. It's like extra gritty, super cool, love it. I only use it sparingly. And the smooth paper, I don't use as often either. So yes, you get to see what that's going to look like. I need something to swatch this on. We'll just go back over here. We'll use the Hoblob paper that Beezy mentioned. Beezy up in the house. All right. So while that's soaking in, let's look at these ugly Halloween almost looking colors. So this one I'm thinking is pretty close to a sap green. Could be wrong, but we're going to give it a try and see. Let's take a look at Sappius Greenius. Yeah, see, I think it needs a little bit more blue. So what I'm going to do is take some of this sap green and let's mix it over here on my palette with a little bit of phthalo turquoise. Oh gosh, I just took it way too turquoise, you guys. All right, this is not going to be it, I don't think. Nope. More, please. Okay, let's see. Nope, I think it needs more yellow. So I'm going to grab some of this pukey green called Rich Green Gold and mix that into it. And hopefully that'll give us something kind of close. That's what she said. Okay, I think that's good enough. Then we have this purple. This purple is probably going to be Cobalt Violet. Actually, this isn't Cobalt Violet. What color is this? Well, it's not really the right color either. Let's see. I have, which one is this? This is Garbage Violet. This is Naphthalene Maroon, which I don't think is that one. There's Rose of Ultramarine, which is might be what that color is. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So I put the purples in the same one, but as I started getting that one wet, I realized that might not actually be Cobalt Violet, but I need to find it. Dig through here to find out. Let's see. This is Indian Throne Blue. This is Moon Gold. Moon Glow. You know, one of these days, I'm just going to learn that throwing all of my paints in a giant bucket doesn't actually help me any. Like, I got a bigger bucket thinking I would be able to go through it easier, and it's just not true. All right, there's Rose of Ultramarine. It's like Mari. That was a lie. We determined that was a lie. Okay, there's Cobalt Violet Deep. Deep! All right. Let's see. Yeah, that's definitely not the same as whatever I have in here. And this one's like super constipated. It doesn't really want to come out. That's also what she said. Okay, so let's try this one again. All right, let me show you the difference. That and that. Clearly not the same. So this is Cobalt Violet. Not sure this is going to be the color we're looking for either. Let's swatch it and find out. So I'm thinking these two mixed is going to get us closer to where we want to be. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to mix both of those colors. And ta-da! Pretty close. All right, so we've got these two colors down. Now let's do Ember. That one's going to be easy because I'm just going to use this orange because that's all I got. Then for this color Ember, I have Mummy Bauxite or Burnt, I think it's Burnt Umber. Might be Burnt Sienna. Let me see. Let's try Burnt Sienna. Mummy Bauxite is nice, but it's really gritty, which I also like, but maybe not for this because we're using smooth paper. And I like the gritty stuff when you're using paper that can actually show the grit better. So let's see here. Burnt Sienna. It's kind of close to it, but let me try a different one. Here's the Mummy Bauxite. All right. It's such a process. Yeah, that's definitely closer. Ta-da! Okay, last but not least is this green. That's definitely going to be my Perylene green, probably with some yellow mixed in. But let's see. Because I get lazy when it comes to mixing colors. Yeah, it's going to need a little yellow mixed in. I might, instead of mixing yellow in, is mix in some sepia. Because it's not quite yellow. Hi, Beezy! Again. It's not quite yellow, but it is a warm tone. So it's not going to give us like grass yellow. Yeah, I think that's good. That's Undersea by... No, it's not. Ta-da! I don't actually have Undersea green. I have Rare Green Earth. Okay, so we've got our colors mixed. Now I'm going to go back in and wet this paper again because I suck and forgot to swatch before I did that. So let's do this again. Should be easier this time though, because it's already pre-wet. That's what she said. Okay. I just make myself laugh so much. All right, here we go, everybody. Undersea and Prussian Blue are my two favorites. Excellent. I don't have either of those by Daniel Smith. I have everything else though. Not really, but I feel like I do. Okay, so let's start with that green we mixed up first. And I think I'm going to make this kind of more linear. I don't know why I'm using this brush. This is the worst brush I could be using. So I'm not going to use it. Let me grab this one. This is my number 12 Princeton Heritage. All right. There. Now we can cover more space. Spacey space. Okay. And then let's go in with some of that purple we mixed up, which was a combination of what I believe is Rose of Ultramarine and Cobalt Violet. And then I'm going to, let's see here. Mom, the weird watercolor lady is making Michael Scott jokes again. I know that's right. I know. I don't know why I do it. I just do. I am who I am. Okay. Okay. Now, we need to add that darker green. And that one was some sepia and some paraline green. Add some more of that sepia in there. Now, I know this looks real ugly right now, and it probably is, but we're not done yet. So I'm going to go back and grab some of that other green, which was the Cascade green, or not Cascade green, the sap green with some of that phthalo turquoise, and I'm going to mix it a bit. I'm going to grab some more of that violet, which I need to put some more of already on there. Let's do this. Ugh. See, I used to make friends jokes all the time, and my husband started saying, Friends isn't relevant anymore. Nobody gets it. And I'm like, fuck you. But The Office is really my jam. And so now I just make those jokes because, I mean, I just assume everybody watched The Office or watches The Office. And I tried to make a joke to my daughter yesterday about Dwight, and she had no idea what I was talking about. And I almost just put this in my coffee. I do that and it gets muddy, and you do it and it's magic. So let me tell you, this is probably going to get muddy somehow. The way I try to keep it from getting muddy is by just kind of not over blending and just picking areas to just add the color to first. And then normally I would have a clipboard that I tape it down to, but it's currently being used for that peacock. So then I'm going to take it and blend it like this. And I feel like this really helps to blend it without making it, you know, terrible. Good morning, Just Journals. But yeah, so anyway, nobody gets my office jokes except you guys, or the That's What She Said jokes. You can call me Michelle Scott. Now, what I don't like about this so far is the water doing this. What I like is usually when it does the reaching, but it looks like those areas have already dried to a point that the water is not really allowing for it to go past those points. So we've got a couple options. We can take our water and just gently encourage it, which is what I'm going to do. We could also spray it, which I don't want to do because I don't want to displace the color too much. Or we could leave it alone. Up to you how you want to handle it. But you can see how it begins to move and blend those colors. Whoops, sorry. Yeah, you should, Jess. No sound detected. Check your audio settings. You guys can hear me, yes? Maybe I was just too quiet for a minute. Unheard of. Okay. So you can see as that kind of does its thing. Okay, good. As that kind of does its thing, you'll notice that it kind of dulls some of those colors a bit as they mix. And that's okay. You can have that and that's fine. But I still like to have sprinkle some salt on it. You can do that, but I don't want to. What I like to do is make sure that I still have some areas that have more pigment. So what I'm going to do is just continue adding some pigment while it's wet to some areas. And then we'll pick it up again and move it, but we won't move it quite as much. But yes, salt is good. I do like some areas of salt in some of my work. But what I'm going for today, I don't want a whole lot of texture in the background. And I'm going to grab some more of that mummy bauxite. And I think that's pretty good. Let's bring in some of that perylene green over up in here. Mix it with some of that orange. Bring in some of that sap green. With some of that phthalo turquoise. Okay. And then this one I'm going to pick up, but I'm only going to move a little bit. So I'm going to just hold it like this for a sec. Hold it like this for a sec. Move it like this. Move it like this. And I might just try to blend it just a little bit more like this so the lines of color are a little more blurred at their edges. But some of this is already dry enough that that's not going to work. Need to be able to see it. Like this one right here. So I'm going to add just a little bit of water over here. Okay, go back this way. And I think that ought to do it. Now, one thing that I have that you can't really see because there's a shine on the background is a couple of areas that are dry that are going to have kind of a dark ring around it. So I'm just going to lift those areas right quick. And now, dry time! I'm guessing that this paper is going to dry relatively quickly because it has been drying relatively quickly already. I gotta say, you know, they always say trust the process, and so far, you guys, I'm trusting the process, and I'm already liking it, even though I hate these colors. I guess Palette Scout knows what it's talking about. I think what I like about this is it's kind of looking very rustic-y, vintage. And I know it doesn't look like much yet, but it will. Okay. I think that is good. Now, this is where the magic starts to happen. And I'm hoping that you all will be able to see this relatively well, but I don't have a lot of confidence in my pencil's ability to show up here for you to be able to see. So here's what's going to happen. I just realized I didn't put this orange in here. Oopsie. We can use it on the next part. So here's what I'm thinking. I want to do some florals. And what we're doing is going for creating something like this. And the reason why I wanted to show you this was twofold. One was because we talked so much about these metallics yesterday, I wanted to be able to show you how you can use them in your work in a way that isn't just like, you know, hey guys, here's my metallics, and look like everybody else's. Somebody just joined whose username is Nobby, Knobie. And what I said to my daughter last night that Dwight said was, no knobbies, no probbies. Anyways, and then the other thing is, if you guys want, instead of using acrylic here, we can, thank you, we can use foil. I'm all about the foil life. So even though it's messy, I'm totally fine with it. So BZ, if you're here, we can do that. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking of some big flowers, maybe like Cosmo style sort of flowers. I actually had one of my Cosmos finally bloom this morning. I was like, yay. And of course we can have some crazy background if we want. But I really want to focus on the florals and showing you what it looks like to really have the metallics blending in with the regular watercolors. And then, like I said, once I hear from artistic aisle, I will get you that 10% off coupon because I think it'll be really awesome for you guys to get to try some of those watercolors. So we'll go ahead and get started with this. And I'm going to make the flowers relatively large, so we'll just have like smaller stems. But so the cosmos, I'll have one that kind of starts here. Let me see if you can, no, you can't even see that. Okay. I wish I had like a white, oh, you know what? I do. I think I have some Conti. Let me see. Oh, wait, no. You know what? I have a white watercolor pencil. What am I thinking? My Derwent. At least I think there's a white in here. Yes. All right. Ta-da. Okay. So I'll draw it with this so that hopefully you guys can see this a lot better. There we go. Okay, awesome. All right, so I'm going to start with kind of this middle boob looking thing. And it's going to kind of be like from the side. And so we're going to start by having this, this petal that kind of comes up like this. We'll have another that does this. Maybe this one goes over like this. I'm getting a little too carried away with how wide that's getting. That's what she said. Okay, then this one go like this. And because this is watercolor, it's gonna fade, or maybe I can just get rid of it altogether. So maybe what I'll do is actually take this and make it smaller. I don't know exactly how that's gonna work, but we'll see. And then we'll make this one smaller. Wonder if I can use my eraser on it. Let's see. Maybe a slight little bit. Let me try my other eraser. Not quite, but also not quite. Okay. All right, so then I'm going to bring this out like this. And maybe this can have like this little bottom piece here. Man, you guys, I am not doing good here at this. Maybe this will kind of go into this one here. I really don't like this thus far. It should erase a bit. Yeah, it's supposed to. I can't tell you how many times I have drawn a Cosmo, so I really thought I could just do this. Apparently not, though. Eek. This is not going well for me. Okay. It'll look something like this. And then, you know, we'll have some form of stem like this and maybe like some sort of leaf. I don't know. All right. And then maybe over here we'll have, I was thinking maybe one that's just kind of up completely, so where you don't even see the middle. So maybe something like this. And you're kind of looking more at the back or bottom of the flower. Although I don't really know what that looks like, so maybe something more like this. I guess something like that. And then, you know, let's just call that a leaf there. Okay, so I feel like we've got a good base going. We'll call it that. Excuse me. And let me grab this. And I'm going to just get rid of these here so I can bring in a smaller brush For this, I'm going to use, I think, maybe one size smaller. This is my number 8. Let me see what else I have. I think I have a 4. No, I have 6. Okay, perfect. All right, so here's what I'm going to start with. I'm going to start by wetting the brush, and I'm going to do the wet on wet. So I'm going to take this, and this is going to absorb the water pretty quick. So we got to probably add just a little bit of extra water in puddles, because by the time you get done adding the water to the petal, it won't be a puddle. And so I'm just quickly adding that in. And I'm not super worried about the white lines at the moment, at least the ones that I wanted to have there. And so there's a couple things I'm going to do. The first thing I'm going to do is decide how I want this petal to look. And I want to bring in some of this orange that we didn't use on the background. So my first layer is typically going to be a stain or a glaze, if you will. So I'm just going to take this, excuse me, and just kind of wash over the background with it. So it's not supposed to be thick to where it covers the background from being seen through so much as it's like a stain that you can kind of see the background through, and it helps to kind of color it. So I'm just going to do that. Might lift up some of the extra pigment there. There we go. All right, I'm going to hit it with the heat gun just so I can show you how we're building this. Talia's back! Your husband's in surgery. What happened? Oh, and Lenny's here too. Okay, first of all, I haven't seen you since Vegas for your anniversary. Second of all, what happened that your husband's in surgery now? Or did I know before Vegas that your husband was having surgery? Because this is now sounding familiar now that I'm saying it out loud. Because wasn't the Vegas kind of a distraction before the surgery, or was that someone else? Okay, so we have that, and he has a shoulder surgery. Okay, gotcha. Oh, it was for his birthday. Okay, I got that detail so wrong. I am apparently all over the place with that. I'm just zooming in, you guys, so it's going to look wonky for a second. Oh, no. I didn't realize he had an amputated left side. Is that why you put air quotes on the shoulder surgery? Or I call it air quotes anyway. I'm glad you can at least laugh about it a little bit. I hope his surgery goes well. Definitely be praying for him and you, and that his recovery goes well. I know surgeries are never easy to watch loved ones go through, or to go through themselves. All right, so the flower itself is not going to look like an actual Cosmo. She says, thank you. So what have I missed? Girl, you've missed some drama. I'm gonna have to fill you in privately. But some of the people that are on here may be able to fill you in if they were on during some of the drama. But, so what we're going to do is kind of leave the undersides of the flowers more of like a dark vintagey tone. On the top of the flowers, I feel like are going to be more of like the purpley, orangey, or maybe even purpley, pinky, and then maybe yellowy tones, something like that. So we've got the orange base, which is great. And now instead of doing the wet on wet technique, we're going to do the wet on dry technique. And I'm trying to decide which colors I want to use for that. I'm going to move this over here and I'm going to bring this over here so that you can see a little bit of what I'm working on. So I'm thinking of the Rose of Ultramarine and the cobalt violet over here, bringing that in towards the base and then kind of bringing it outwards a bit and fading that into either a yellow like this quinacridone gold, which can be used more heavily to be an orange or more lightly to look like a yellow. We could also just have it fade to the orange like that one over there. So yeah, just kind of thinking of that. We also have this color here, Chinese vermilion, that's pretty. So let's just see. I'm going to start with the bottom and I'm going to do the mixture of the cobalt violet and the, what I think is Rose of Ultramarine, maybe Naphthalide Maroon, I don't remember. So I'm going to start by bringing this in here and bringing this around. Hopefully you can see that as I do it. And I'm going to try to keep this as wet as I can. This paper does dry faster than I would have liked. I haven't worked with this in a while, so I'm a little frustrated by the dry time. And this is Arch's hot press paper, so it is very smooth. Like Ken's smooth area. And then I'm just going to add some water and start bringing that out this way. Let's try to add just some of that maroon or naphthalide maroon or whatever this freaking color is. And then let's add some Chinese vermilion just for giggles. See what that looks like as we kind of fade it out this way. And then we'll end with some of this orange, I think. Maybe not. Maybe I don't like it. I don't know. Okay, now I'm going to just take some water and continue to mix that because it is, again, drying faster than I would like it to. Because we have work to do still with this, and it needs to be wet for that. That's what she said. Okay, let me drop some more of this in here. Merge this up. I do like how that's blending, though. It is really pretty. Drop some of this Chinese vermilion. Okay, so now what we're going to do while it is still wet is use our metallics wisely. Okay, so the purple. The purple is going to be a little bit of a problem because I don't have a dark purple. However, there are things we can do with that. I have this one, which is Sunken Treasure, that has a nice gold. So we're going to take this gold. Ooh, Talia sent me a rose and a hat with a mustache. And Ames, thank you. You sent me a heart. Boo. And Talia sent me finger heart. Oh, dear. And I can't, oh, a tiki-talk and another heart. You guys, you're really making me feel special. Oh, that could very much be something that I take into a Taylor Swift thing. I guess what I'm trying to say is, you're making me feel like the man. I could be complex. Okay, I'll stop. I could be cool. All right, maybe I won't stop. They say I've played the field before. I found someone to commit to. And that would be okay for me to do. All right, so I added that here. I know you can't really see it yet, but when it dries, you will. And then I'm going to go in with this one, which is called Veritas. And I'm going to just add it right here as kind of this transition between the purple and the pink. And then right at the end here, I'm going to go in with Tahiti and add that here. Now, this isn't going to be like over the top sparkly because, you know, we don't want it to be like bam. We want it to be like subtle, like some of this is over the top. Like this one's like over the top bam. Like this one is like really subtle down here and then it goes into it. Or like really subtle down here and then it goes into it. Like that's kind of what we're going for. So this has really blended nicely. I'm happy with that. I'm going to hit it with the heat gun so you can see what it looks like. I have to be careful with the heat gun because what happens with the heat gun is that it will blow the water around and take some of that glitter in the pigment with it, in the metallic with it. So we want to make sure that as we're drying it with the heat gun, we are not disturbing it where we've left it so that it's not taking away from the way we want it to dry. Okay, shoot, you guys. Do you see it coming to life? Yeah, I burned my paper one time years ago with it, and I'm like, okay, now I know. Okay. You guys. Dang it. What do you think? Isn't it freaking gorgeous? Okay. Let me pick up all of these that just fell because I want these to stay nice and not get rolled over by me when I get excited. These are my cards, you know. Okay. So we did that one. We're going to do that all the way around, but that part's boring. So I'm going to move on to a different part that's not boring because I want you to be able to see the difference between like, oh, why does my coffee make me burp? The bottoms and the top. So let's go with this part right here because I want you to see what like the underside of the petal could look like. So I'm going to do, again, the wet on wet technique. That's what both he and she said. That must be like the hot tub style or something. All right, and then for this one, I want to keep it more of that vintagey tone. So I'm gonna take some sepia and some sap green. If I could get this ratio right, that'd be great. And I'm gonna drop some of that down here at the bottom. Let it bloom. It's not quite the color that I want yet. So I'm just gonna add some more sepia in there. Try to get that brown going. Okay. And yes, Jess journals. So I have a discount code coming for you. I don't get any kickbacks from this. I am not an affiliate, but I have used her watercolors since 2019, and she is super kind. Her name is Lindsay, and I happened to tell her yesterday how I ended up telling her, or ended up doing an entire live talking about her watercolors, and it wasn't even what I got on to do the live for. And so she's like, if you want, I can give you a 10% off promo code that you can share with them. And I was like, yes, please. They would love that. So, I'm just waiting to get that from her. I was hoping to have it by this morning, but I haven't gotten it yet. but she's also in a different time zone than me. So if you can wait, that would be good. But I can also figure out how to get you a list of the ones that I have. Actually, I had somewhere, I think it's still over there, but I might have thrown it away, a list of all of my Artistic Isle watercolors that I own, because I made it so that she could, I could show her what I had that was in stock and what I needed that was out of stock on her website. So anyway, let me see if I can actually look on TikTok in the browser window and see if she's messaged me yet. And I'll look that up and see. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not. Nope, not yet. But I'll keep you posted. Okay, there we go. Okay, so what I did down here was the wet on wet. I added a combination of sepia and sap green to get kind of this olivey dark tone. And then I added some quinacridone gold at the top just to warm it up a little bit. So, gonna let that dry. But while that's drying, and I'll hit it with the heat gun too so that we can go over it again. But while that's drying, what I wanted to do was come over here and show you the underside of these petals, because it's essentially going to be the same thing. And it's going to look awesome. By the way, happy Friday, everybody. I'm so looking forward to this week being done. It has been so busy with end of school related stuff. And it's not even done yet. We got so many end of year parties, and my daughter had a pre-orientation at the high school she's going to next year. So excited, by the way. I took videos of their gallery opening at the high school she's going to next year. Super excited for her. She's an artist, and she was at a magnet art school for middle school. And now she's going to be going to a high school that is like a really good art high school. It's not private, it's public, but it's not a magnet school either. It's called Douglas Anderson. They've been in the news for some questionable teachers. But those teachers are no longer there. But they apparently have a really good academic program, and their arts are really awesome. So, all right, so now I'm going to take that quinacridone gold and bring that up through here, and then I'm just going to kind of start mixing it here in the middle. Again, this is just the glaze that goes on the bottom, so this doesn't need to be super thick. And I'll probably just grab some of this extra. And move this upward. Okay, now I'll hit it with the heat gun. Okay, so because this part is so small, we're going to do it a little bit differently than we did this area over here. And it's going to be so pretty. Okay, so this color is called Kula. Kula? Yes, Kula. And then I have another one called Antiqued Bronze, which is over here. We're going to use both of them. So the Antiqued Bronze, I'm doing wet on dry. I'm going to put along the bottom here. And then I'm going to grab some of that sap green that we were using with the sepia and just mix it over the top so that we're still getting that green with that color and the metallic. And then we're going to take that Kula and we're going to go over, whoops, I'm going to go over this like this. It's a little too much, but we'll fix it. I'm going to grab some of that quinacridone gold and drop that down in there like this. Hopefully you can see that. I know you can't see like the shine on it, which is unfortunate because it's so pretty. And then I'm going to just clean off my brush and start dabbing so I can get a feel for what that's looking like, because I want to make sure that we're getting true to tone what it is that I'm going for. And so I'm going to go back into the sepia and that antiqued bronze and just add some more of that down here, because I really want this to look more antique-y than anything, but still have that shimmer to it. And then the top I'm happy with, so I'm just going to leave that as is. Well, let me hit it with a heat gun while I answer Talia. How do you preserve your paintings? I never learned that myself. Great question. That was actually one of the things we talked about in yesterday's live that made it so fun. We talked about all sorts of things like that. So I don't actually do anything to preserve my paintings other than use professional grade items like Daniel Smith watercolors, Artistic Isle watercolors. They have good light fastness or archival qualities. The reason is because you can use sprays and stuff on them, but when you spray those things over the top of them, they do flatten your watercolor. They make them look dull. They can also still create spray marks in your actual watercolor, and I don't want any of that. So what I do is I just use Arch's watercolor papers because those have archival qualities to them anyway, and I use professional paints. So, and then of course mat them and immediately put them inside some sort of cellophane and keep them out of direct sunlight. And then in that cellophane you can ship them, and then immediately to a frame. And don't let any little schnitzels near them. All right, so I know you can't see this very well. Let me see. Let me bring this up closer. Oh no, that came undone. Let's try it from this end. Or, no, I can't bring that down to show you. It's because it's like not at the right angle to be able to show you, but okay. Wee. Do you see that glimmer? Is sure pretty. And that one, sure pretty. Boom. Okay, so you've seen that, yes. Now, this has a nice base that looks very similar to this. Now we're going to do the same thing here. So we're going to start with that sepia and that antiqued bronze. And we're going to start painting wet on dry. And then while that's still wet, we're going to grab some of that sap green. And again, go into that to keep it relatively wet, since it does dry quickly on this paper. And again, grab some of that sepia to really olive it up, if that makes sense. Make it look more olive. And then grab some more antique bronze. And there we go. Now I'm going to start kind of just pulling this up like this. And then from here, I'm going to grab that Kula, which is this green right here, and start bringing it down into that antiqued bronze. And then grab quinacridone gold and start mixing that into the Kula, which will then mix up into that sepia and antiqued bronze. And again, just kind of bringing that all the way up here like this. And where the white lines are, we're going to add foil. So you don't really have to worry about covering them. And then I'm just going to bring this also up here. It's not going to be quite as heavy as the rest of it because I do want it to stay more in that gold tone. Now you could use a gold tone watercolor if you wanted, but I really want the greens to mix and really make that olive undertone to everything, because I feel like that's really what makes it look and feel like a vintage sort of tone. Now, one thing we can do with this, because there's more surface area to play with, my card is ready for you when you have that code. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I will definitely message it to you. I'm going to add some of this orange because we can play with that to bring in some extra fun tone. But I do want to keep it a little lower than that. And again, I'm going to bring in some of that sepia to really keep this dark down here. And then bring in, it's kind of like titrating the back and forth of the darks and the lights and the shimmers and whatnot. Oh, and then you asked, what do you use to make the white lines? So I wanted the white lines because otherwise you can't see the graphite when I'm drawing. And so I just used my Derwent watercolor pencil so that it could come off. So that's how I used it. And then I'm going to grab some more of this one and just add it to the center here. And again, just mixing. And again, I don't want to lose that gold, so I'm going to grab some more of that quinacridone. And you see how it really makes that like yellow-green sort of color? It just, I feel like brings that vintage tone together really nicely. So I'm just going to continue bringing up. And you wouldn't have to do this quite as much if you were using the cold press paper. But, you know, this hot press paper is extra smooth, like Ken's smooth area. Okay. I think that's good, but I feel like I still don't like this part of this very much. It's like not olive green enough there. So what I am going to do is actually grab my olive green, because I do have that color. It's just a little lighter than I typically like. And I'm going to just add that olive green tone here. Maybe add a little bit more sepia. A little bit more of that orange as well. Whee! And then I'm just going to use a wet brush to kind of come down from the top to give it a little bit of water to blend with. And I might do another layer on it just because, like I said, it is drying fast. I feel like every time I go over the top of it, it's it's picking up more than I would like for it to. But let's go ahead and dry it, see what we have. Then we can always add another layer. Good morning, Smile. It is. I'm excited. I'm using hot press paper this morning, which is very smooth. A little bit more difficult to work with for this style, but I wanted to show the difference between hot press and cold press paper. So yeah, that's what we're doing this morning. Okay, so this is dry. One thing that I can tell you about working with metallics is that when you do add a lot of regular pigment in with the metallics, is you get a very flat reflective quality versus a very metallic reflective quality like these two have. So you can see a bit of that metallic that gathered over here on the side, but everything else is more of a flat reflective quality. So what I would recommend doing is getting that wet again, and this time adding more of the metallic than the color tone pigment along with it. And so that's what I'm going to do. And I don't mind the colors, actually. The colors look pretty good for what I want. So I'm going to go in with that antiqued bronze here. Just like this. Jen McPaul's in the house. Smile is probably because you're at a doctor's office. And I'm going to grab just a little bit of this Kula, bring it up in here like this. And because I still don't want this to be super green, I'm going to grab some Lumos, which is a gold, and bring that in at the top and kind of just mix those together. And now I'll dry it again. How are you this morning, Jen McPole? Now you can see that metallic come out. Oh no. You know, it's funny. I always think about doing painting outside, but then when I come in here to grab my stuff to go paint outside, I'm like, I don't feel like hauling all this stuff outside. I'm too lazy. Why am I so cool? All right, so I want to show you something else that I think is fun to do as well when we're adding all of this stuff in here. So, of course, we're going to continue around similar to this. We'll vary the colors a little bit just so that we have some variation. But what I want to show you is the back of these petals and how you can get some variation in this as well. So I'm going to go right next door to this guy here. And again, wet on wet technique first. We're going to add just a glaze. You guys know I'm big on the glaze. And let me make sure I got that. And Jen, since you are just joining, I will let you in on a couple little secrets here. Number one, I drew this with a Derwent watercolor pencil because I wanted you to be able to see it, because you can't see it when I draw it in graphite on this dark background. Second, we used my palette scout to come up with a really ugly color palette, because this is a triadic color. Triadic is drama, and I'm trying to come out of my comfort zone. So we went with this one called Quetzal, and so that's what we went with. And I actually don't mind it so much. Third, I reached out to Lindsay from Artistic Isle Watercolor yesterday and told her how we ended up talking mostly about her metallic watercolors in yesterday's live. And she told me that she would not mind sending a 10% off code to my people. So she hasn't gotten it to me yet. She's in a different time zone than me, so she probably hasn't woken up just yet. Or if she has, she hasn't, gotten on social media just yet. So I will let you know once I have that available. But if you are interested in that, you can get some 10% off up and down. Oh, good, Talia. Very good. Excellent. And if you would like any recommendations, or if you like any of what I have and you need to know the names, just let me know and I'm happy to guide you in that. So I'm just doing that initial glaze right now where, I just lay down some color. I'm doing some purple here at the bottom and some orange towards the top, and then just kind of mixing them together. And then I'm going to hit it with the heat gun. Now, I don't think you guys are going to be ready for the gorgeousness that is about to befall you. But here it comes. So, I want the bottom to be kind of eggplanty colored. But I don't have an eggplanty colored metallic. So I'm going to use this one, which really gives more of just like these gold flecks like we talked about yesterday. Where did I put that? Tear out. Here we go. So remember yesterday I mentioned that this gold one right here is really just more the sparkles than any underlying color like this with sparkle in it. When it goes into this garbage violet, carbazole violet, but I call it garbage violet. It is so beautiful. Is that creepy sounding or what? So, I'm going to paint that garbage violet right there. I know you can't see because there's a freaking glare. And so I'm going to leave that as a little puddle for now. And then I'm going to go into what I believe is Rose of Ultramarine. Like this. Again, grab some water because this paper does dry quicker than the regular Arches paper. And I'm going to bring that into olive green up into here. Really trying to keep it like in that antique-y tone. So let me grab some more of that. Okay, now I'm going to grab this beautiful color. Well, we might have to do another layer of it, but just trust the process. And I'm going to just dab this up in here. Oh, I know you can't see it. Dang it, I wish you could see it. It's so beautimous. So, so pretty. It's like the sparkle we all need in our lives. And then with that green, I'm actually going to go in with Tahiti, which is kind of this orangey one. And just mix a bit. Okay. Heat gun. I wish you could see this, but you'll see it as it dries. Oh yeah, you see that? Okay, shoot. May have gone a little overboard because I want that to be more eggplant with the sparkle in it than just gold sparkle. But it's really pretty. Oh, okay. So, do you see what I mean? Like, look at how beautiful. I love it. I just love it. Okay. Let me see. Okay. No cuestiones. So, let's continue. Let's work on the center of this. So the center of this is going to be a little different than the rest of the flower. These are usually kind of yellow and brown and I don't know, kind of ugly, but we're going to do the wet on wet, and let's do the quinacridone gold. Drop down into it like this. And then I'm going to take some sepia and just kind of drop it in at the bottom like that. And then when I dry it, I'm going to dry it with the water, the air pointed this way so that brown stays more towards the bottom. Like this. Unfortunately, it looks like it's also going to take the yellow with it. So let me add a little bit more yellow towards the top. It's like an art to pushing around the color. There we go. Okay, so now that that's done, let's decide. I think we're going to go with that gold sparkle just on the top here, because I think that that's really going to bring out the highlight in the center of that. And then I think we'll go in with some of that Lumos underneath like this. And some antiqued bronze. Or actually, let's do this one. Let's bring in some bumblebee. There. Yotamas. All right. So before I continue with the boring part of just repeating everything I just did, I want to know if you all have any questions. And I'm also rethinking this guy right here because I just love this one so much. So, any questions before I keep going? Drink some coffee too. I'm also going to check Tiki-Taki one more time to see if she has messaged me yet. Let's see. Nope, not yet. Okay, then let us continue. I'm probably going to be a little quiet just because this part's boring and I don't really know what to talk about. I wouldn't say it's boring, it's just repetitive. Let's see, Jen says, my 2-year-old just saw the painting and said, wow, beautiful. Oh, how sweet. I love it when kids get to see what their parents are watching and they say things like that. It's just so cute. All right, I'm gonna hit this with a heat gun and undo the other ones that I haven't had a chance to do yet. Oh, that's awesome, Jen. Oddly enough, my kids do too. Oddly enough is sarcasm, FYI. Just in case you don't get sarcasm. Not you, Jen, just anybody listening. Given that I have 2 kids that go to a magnet art school and 2 more kids who want to go to the same magnet art school when they are in middle school. So yeah. Imagine that, their mom's an artist. I guess that means my mom changing her family tree and going into medicine dies with her. I remember people used to always be like, you want to be like your mom when you grow up? No, not at all. No desire to go into medicine whatsoever. But it is kind of funny to see that so far all 4 of my children want to be some form of artist someday. And that is no pressuring from me by any means. Actually, my oldest, who's going to be going to high school, she used to want to be a I can't even remember what it's called now, but it's some sort of space engineer person. Not an astronaut, but like an astrophysicist. That's what it was. She used to want to be an astrophysicist. Same here. Yeah, I didn't get to go to any sort of fancy schools or anything. I just had, you know, the typical thing. But where we live is a really nice area. It's not like, you know, yuppie or anything, but like we're middle class. And we have a really great elementary school. It's a, you know, it goes back and forth between being a rated 9 or 10 elementary school. And our middle school options are 2 underperforming middle schools. And by underperforming, I mean they range between a 3 out of 10 and a 4 out of 10 with lots of violence. And they're not near here, but they serve, like, that's just where they're zoned to go. And so our neighborhood in particular is known as the 4th grade neighborhood. And that's because come 4th grade, everybody moves out because they move over the county line to St. Johns County for the schools because there are no good middle school options here. And so when our oldest was approaching 5th grade, and they have been promising us a middle or either a K through 8 or a middle school, she was approaching 5th grade, and we were like, there's still no good middle school options, and she sure as hell isn't going to either of those 2 schools. We were like, well, what are we going to do? So we started looking around, and we found a few magnet schools, and at the time she had really gotten into doing art and had started sort of coming into her own as an artist. And we were like, well, there's this one downtown called La Villa that we knew a neighbor that went to for music, a neighbor that we knew was going for music. And our daughter was playing violin at the time. So we're like, well, maybe she could get in for music or whatever. So we looked into it, and we went through the process of having her audition and all that stuff. But then she saw that they had a visual arts program, and she was really good at drawing. And so she applied for that and auditioned, and she did not get a pass for music, but she got a high pass for visual arts. But because it's a magnet school, they go based on lottery. And so basically they pull your name, and, you know, if you get in, you get in. If you don't, you don't. Well, what's interesting is that she got picked in the lottery for the thing she did not get a pass for, which was music or orchestra. And she did not get picked in the lottery for visual arts. So we accepted for orchestra. And then apparently the first couple of days of school, they have a lot of people who just end up not being able to go, or they drop their programs or whatever. So she was able to switch her program to the visual arts program. And so she's been in that ever since. And so then we have the other school, Douglas Anderson, is the high school that most of the La Villa students try out for or audition for once they're, ready to go to high school. And so that's the one she was wanting to go to, and all her friends were wanting to go to, and she auditioned and got in. A bunch of her friends got in, but one of her dear friends didn't really put a lot of thought or effort into it and didn't end up getting in, and she was heartbroken. Same with another one of her friends who was going to school for orchestra and decided to audition for whatever reason under visual arts, and of course didn't have any visual arts experience, and then didn't get in. So she was really heartbroken because her sister goes to Douglas Anderson. But My 5-year-old wants to be an electrical engineer and work on spaceships. That's so cute. Yeah, it does happen. Well, and what was funny too, that I said to my daughter, my older daughter, the one that's going to high school, said something the other day. She's like, I'm the class of 2030, and you know why that sucks? I was like, why? And she said, because it sounds so futuristic, but like, we don't have anything futuristic and cool. There should be flying cars by now and like robots and stuff. I was like, okay, baby, hear me out. We have self-driving cars. We have AI. We have robots that look like people that can do things like people. Just because we don't have flying cars doesn't mean that we don't have the whole Jetsons futuristic thing that people had kind of painted that picture for. So that really has nothing to do with like why graduating in 2030 might suck for you. You know, like, pipe down, kid. Anyway. Well, what she should have done was just auditioned for an orchestra and then tried to change, you know? But she didn't. So, and at the time, that was my daughter's girlfriend. And so, of course, she was heartbroken. And then they broke up shortly after that since they weren't going to be going to the same school. Yet her sister's still going to the same high school that my daughter's going to. So she's like, I think she thought she was just going to be kind of a shoo-in because her older sister goes there, but nope. But they're not a magnet high school. So anyway. All right, so we got all their glazes done. Let me see here. I had a friend who applied to the high school I went to because her sister went there. That wasn't enough to get her in, yeah. And there's like this misconception, I think, of a lot of places like that that are like, oh, well, because I have a sibling that goes there, I'm just kind of a shoo-in. And it's like, no. Like a lot of these schools, especially Douglas Anderson, I mean, they're pretty highly rated in the nation for being a highly regarded school of excellence for not only art, but academics as well, because they combine both of them so well. And they have a 100% graduation rate and a 94% continuing education rate of graduates, which means they go on to either a college or university or some sort of, you know, continuing education. And so like, they're not number one, but they're, I don't know where they rank, but I know that they, according to what they said last night, they are highly, you know, rated among the art schools in the nation, but they're a public school technically, but you still have to audition in order to get in. So whatever the situation is, it's like, you're not just a shoo-in, and it's like applying for college. Like you have to prove that you belong there. And if your work doesn't show that you have any understanding of what is required of you, then they're not going to just let you in because you have a sibling there. And what I believe she didn't, my daughter's ex-girlfriend now, what I believe she ended up not having was any experience in critiques. So she failed based on her critique skills, or lack thereof, rather. But I digress. All right, so I'm going to grab Sunken Treasure, and I'm going to start working that up. I meant to do the wet on dry technique, but I accidentally did the wet on wet. It'll be fine. Then I'm grabbing Veritas and bringing that through here. And then grabbing some of that Chinese vermilion. And then some more of that Veritas. This is what happens when I do one of them instead of all of them at the same time. I forget whatever my process was. That's okay. And now I'm going to go in with Tahiti. And I believe I had brought in some of that purple we were using at the bottom. The cobalt purple with the rose of ultramarine. So I'm going to bring that up. And then go back over with the sunken treasure. And then grab some more of that Veritas and kind of mix them together. All right, I don't think this is going to look the way that I was hoping for it to look, because I clearly did something differently to the first one I did, and I don't remember what it was. Yeah, we'll see. Let's try it. Let's try it. Okay, that doesn't look bad. Never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. I actually really like that. Carry on. Okay. You know, maybe the secret really is the wet on dry, or the wet on wet. So let's just continue doing the wet on wet and see what happens. This one I might have gotten a little overzealous with. All right, let's see what we got. It's hard to see it when it's wet on camera because of the glare, but in person, you can see it a little bit better. But then once it's dry, you can see it really well, both in both person and on camera. Okay, so this is interesting. So this one was the first one we did, where I did the wet on dry, and I put down the purple first, then the Chinese vermilion, then the quinacridone gold, and then I went over with the metallics. This one, I accidentally did the wet on wet, and I just went in with the metallics and had forgotten to do it. You can see there's a definite pigmentation difference between the two. This is more deepish orangey gold. This is more washed out, champagne-y maybe. This is more pinky purple. This is more light purple. These look pretty much the same, but you can see the difference again over here. Like these two look more similar. This one we kind of lost this deeper color in just because of how they mixed. But there's definitely a difference between the way the application happened in this petal versus the rest of these. So I just wanted to point that out. As we start to go around these, I'm going to start kind of playing with some different ones because I don't want them all to look the same. But I want to take what we did in the background here and start kind of playing with some of those different colors to really bring in the subtleties of how the background reflects through to these petals. So we're gonna have some fun. I'm real excited. It is pretty too, isn't it? Jen, if you would like, I can try to move this camera to being more like side view to see if that helps with the glare of this part. Would that be something that would be helpful to you? Okay, yeah, I'm willing to try anything. So let me unplug this really quick. It may get like weird and, you know, yell at me or something. Sometimes it likes to do that. All right, let me plug it back in. Because, you know, this thing likes to be dramatic. There we go. Okay, let me see here. Oh, hang on. It's got to decide where it wants to be because it like digitally moves it. Okay, let's see how this goes. Oh, hey, Bethany. Welcome back, girlfriend. All right, so like, for example, this one's more orange and purple, so I may do less of a transition of pink in the middle. So let's see what that one looks like. Oh, why am I doing this wet on wet again? I'm the worst. Let me just kind of dry it a little bit more, pick up some of this water. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go in. Let me grab a different violet. I'll do the garbage violet and start painting that in. And then let's grab the quinacridone gold. Bring that up into here. And then we'll take that sunken treasure. Oh my gosh, do you guys ever do that and then ruin your painting? I hate that. Like right there. Okay, so then we're gonna take this and start working that up into here. And then we'll use Tahiti and start bringing that down from the top here. And kind of just mix them a little bit right there. I don't want it to go too far in one direction or another. Oh, Bethany, I hate when that happens. It's like, dang it, I just want to use my freaking arms. In due time, though. In due time. Okay, so I'm going to just use the tip of my brush to kind of encourage this a little bit more, because I don't want there to be this harsh line where the fade needs to happen. So I'm just getting some more of that sunken treasure on the tip of my brush and just kind of doing this. Okay, so hopefully, Jen, the glare isn't too bad. Let's see. Yes, this angle is much better. I can actually see what's happening. Okay, good. All right, so now I'm going to dry it. Okay, so I gotta say, I don't necessarily love the way that this looks here. So I think I'm gonna try to go over it again. And let me grab some more of the garbage violet. And I'm gonna bring this up. I think really the problem with the sunken treasure is that because it is like a blue base, we do tend to lose a bit of that violet tone. So let's bring in just a little bit of that Hocus Pocus purple that I have. I don't think I'm going to like it, but we'll try it anyway. See how that ends up looking. And then again, I'm just going to re-wet what we already have, because I see a little bit over here that I didn't get. And just kind of blend it into each other like this. And let's bring in some more Tahiti just along this edge here, because that's where I didn't get it. And I'm going to just try to get that moved around a bit more. Oops, sorry. All right, that looks better. I do think we obviously lose some of the gold that I like here in switching over to here, but I also don't mind it that much. We could always bring in just a little bit of this gold here. Just see what that looks like. I think that's probably a little too bright. So I guess this is just our experiment, isn't it? So here's what I'm gonna do again. I'm gonna go over this just a little, and I'm just gonna get some water on my brush. I'm not adding any more of this color to it, but I am just providing water so that it can blend better and not leave that harsh line. And make sure I can't see. Sorry, I gotta put my head in the way. Okay. All right, I think that looks better. I do think to some extent we'll probably have to stick with this color in the center just to make sure that we have consistency. Jen, I think what I'm going to do, bear with me for a second, is fit this to the screen and then try to bring it down, because I do think the pixelation that keeps happening from zooming in makes it hard for you to see like the detail work of it. So let me see. I'm just trying to rotate it and get this right, so bear with me. All right, let's see how this does. Okay, so let's go over to this guy over here. And I'm going to, again, grab some of that purple. And I'm doing the wet on dry. And again, bringing that up here. And this time, I think I'll grab some sap green as kind of this transition color. And then I will take that into quinacridone gold. So we have a nice warm transition to the top. And then we'll go in with this one, which is the Sunken Treasure. I did not mean to do that, but this angle is difficult. Let me just see if I can suck some of this up a bit. All right, so Sunken Treasure, I'm gonna bring in here. Ah! Why do I keep throwing this? Okay, so we're gonna bring this up here like this. Let's bring in some green. We're gonna go in with Kula. And then we'll go in with Tahiti. Now, Kula has a gold tone to it. So when it dries, it looks more like this. But sometimes it can get a little overbearing. So I try to make sure that it kind of mixes with the other golds around it. So do you see that, how it comes to life as it dries? It's so pretty. Okay, and hopefully now this is a better, not only a better angle, but being zoomed out, you can see more of the details more clearly. Oh gosh, why am I doing the wet on wet again? All right, so this one's interesting because the purple actually starts back here. So we're just gonna start with the purple back here. And then I'm going to go in with the orange and bring this up like this. And then we'll start with the Tahiti. Bring it down like this. Isn't that freaking gorgeous? Why does this say... It makes me do the puzzle because of inactivity. What do you mean inactivity? You've been washing my hand this whole time, fool. Anyway, isn't that pretty how it moves down like that? And then, you know, I feel like we have an opportunity to do something different here because it's at the end, so it doesn't necessarily have to do this. So let's go in with Veritas. And just watch how the Veritas, hang on, let me get a lot of it on there. Watch this, ready? Watercolor porn. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Isn't that so pretty? Okay, let's try it. So, random thing I heard from a nurse yesterday is she was bummed that she wasn't on my care team. I don't understand why that's a random thing. Maybe she knows your case and thinks it's an interesting one. I know a lot of nurses, so I don't think that sort of thing is weird. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that's probably why then. Yeah, nurses that don't get to be on teams for people that have something super rare will definitely say those kind of things. That's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah. I mean, my mom is retired now, but she was a nurse and then a nurse practitioner for the majority of her life. By the way, I don't like this harsh line here, so I'm just going to take my brush and kind of smooth it out like this a little bit. My best friend's husband is a nurse. My son has been taken care of by countless nurses. So those sort of things, you know, they don't bother me any. Not that you were saying that it bothered you, just I know you said it was a random thing, so I didn't know if that was like indicating that it bothered you or that it creeped you out or something. Oh. So how long do you have to be inpatient for? Oh, I thought you said you were inpatient earlier. Maybe that was someone else that was on. Sometimes the conversations go fast and I blur and mix up who's who. Or who says what. But it's funny because I do, now that I think about it, get quite a few people in here who are like inpatient. Or not inpatient, but in some sort of medical situation. And so like they're they're like, you know, not biding their time. They're just passing the time watching. Which is, now that I think about it, kind of an honor. That's hysterical. Dang it, then who said they were impatient? Let me see. I wish there was like the ability to find part of the conversation in these chats so that you can find what you're looking for. That would be nice. Because now I feel bad I don't remember who said it. It wasn't Talia. Her husband was outpatient today. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Oh, okay, so yeah. I am inpatient and independent. Husband not a fan of it. Yes, that's what I saw. So it was Bethany. So you are outpatient. Maybe that was supposed to say impatient. Like, you know, not the kind that likes to patiently wait. All right, so I'm not loving the way that this turned out, so I'm just going to go in with this, touch it up a little bit. Gotcha. I'm like, I know somebody said they were impatient. Who was it? And then I know somebody said they were at their internist's office. Somebody said their husband was in shoulder surgery. So, like, I knew it was a busy day today for medical stuff. Yeah. Okay. Bye, Jen. Thanks for hanging out. I'll probably have to finish this on a different live because this is taking forever and I'm hungry. But it is fun. Normally, I don't spend this long on my lives. May 22, I go to my post-op appointment. Okay, so that's not too far away, but far enough that you're like, ugh. Yeah. I remember after I had my tummy tuck, I felt like the drains were never going to come out. And I just wanted them out so bad. And I went to my 2-week appointment. They weren't ready to come out. Went to my 4-week appointment. They weren't ready to come out. And I was like, I just want them out. And I think it was like at 5 weeks I was finally able to get them out. But I was like, mother of... I was like, just get out. That was the only surgery I needed drains for, though. Like, how come for a tummy tuck I have to have drains, but for 4 C-sections I didn't have to have drains? I don't get it. But I trust the doctor. I bet. You want to hear something terrible? When I had my tummy tuck, I developed pneumonia about 24 hours later and ended up inpatient for 4 days. If you've ever had major abdominal surgery and then had pneumonia, you meet Jesus every time you cough. Oh my good gosh. Ugh. It was so bad. But hey, all the extra skin was gone from having babies and stuff. So I'll take it. And I'd do it again too. Couldn't even cut eggs yesterday. Yeah. I broke my ankle back in 2023, I think it was. And I had to be off of it for like 13 weeks. It was horrible. And I hated it. And just going to the bathroom was like such a freaking chore. And let me tell you, I have since then really just come to appreciate when I am in a healthy state, because you really don't understand how lucky you are as you get older. I'm not saying this to you, by the way. I'm just commiserating that, like, you don't realize as you age until you start having problems just how fortunate you are when you don't have problems. Because when you're younger, you know, you're like, oh, I have a pain, but it goes away super fast. And, you know, it just kind of is what it is. But then as you get older, those pains don't go away as fast, and you don't, you know, snap back to it as quickly. And, you know, sometimes those pains end up being for keeps, and it just is what it is. So, all of a sudden you remember what it was like to not be in pain, and you wish you could go back to that. And then you realize how much you take for granted just when you get up to go to the bathroom and you don't need crutches or a... Feral Mom says, that's the truth. I turned 50 and fell apart. See, I feel like I turned 40 and fell apart. But, yeah. Like, if you can get up and go to the bathroom without needing a walker or crutches or a knee scooter or someone to help you go, I think you're doing pretty good. My mom always reminds my dad of that too, because he's going to be 79. Oh, Bethany, you're only 30. Oh, that's my son's birthday, May 25th. Well, you are definitely lucky. Yeah, yeah. I feel like 30 is when I realized I wasn't as resilient as I was in my 20s. But that was okay. Like, I could handle it. But then when I hit like my late 30s, I started noticing, like, you know, things just weren't as easy as they were. But then when I hit 40, it was like 6 months after I turned 40, it was like, whoa, what happened? But anyway, my mom is 10 years younger than my dad. My dad's going to be turning 79 in August. And, you know, it's like there's this thing that happens when you get old, and all of a sudden you feel like you need to always start conversations with, oh, I got this pain, I got this ache, I got this, I got that. And especially among your old friends. And so it's like, who's got the worst problem? Like, let's whip it out and talk about it, you know? And so my mom's like, don't be that guy, you know, like, don't be that guy, Jerry. Anyway, it's really funny. But she's like, you get up and walk on your own 2 feet every day. You don't live in chronic pain that's debilitating every day. And you remember what that was like, because my dad did have debilitating pain, but had a life-changing surgery a couple of years ago. She's like, and you have your disability thing on the car, but don't you dare think about using it, because you are healthy and you can get around, and you're almost 80 years old and you're still able to get around like most 80-year-olds can't. So count your blessings, Jerry. Jerry. Anyway, it's funny. Yeah. Yeah, and I do think losing the independence is the hardest part. And I would say, too, that as I've gotten older, I have developed so much more compassion for older folks who have had to go live in facilities because they can't take care of themselves anymore. And it's like, how do you live an entire life where you're independent, and suddenly you have to be dependent on someone for everything? Mm. And people who have to live in chronic pain, it's like they learn to live with a certain level of it, but over time that's super wearing. And then when you get your independence basically taken away because of it too, it's like, well, geez Louise, now what? Oh, yeah. Dang it. Yeah, I would say my mom always taught me to be independent. And so when I do have to depend on people, it's very uncomfortable. But the last year or so that I've been dealing with the issues that I've been dealing with, it's just something I've had to become okay with, and I'm hoping that, you know, these things will be on their way out soon, because sometimes it feels like there's never an end in sight. When you hate feeling like you're taking too much advantage. Yeah. Exactly, Lori. I remember after I broke my ankle, I was competing in karate at the time, and I was practicing my front flips on one of those trampolines at a trampoline park, because I was competing in extreme martial arts, and I just landed the last one wrong. I heard a pop, couldn't stand up, and I crawled over to the edge, and I did it right in front of my daughter too. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I just broke my ankle. And she's like, what? And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I just broke my ankle. And, you know, I was super embarrassed and all that stuff and whatnot. And they had to wheel me out in a wheelchair. And I hated that because I obviously wanted to walk out, but my ankle wouldn't work. And so my husband took me to the emergency room to get it imaged and all that stuff. And when the doctor came in, he said, well, someone in this room is fibbing, and it's not me and it's not him. And I was like, no way. There's no way this is not broken. And sure enough, he said, nope, it's not broken. Well, of course, they missed the break on the imaging, but I remember in that time feeling that my husband's probably, like, my husband knows me, so he's not thinking this, but in my mind I'm thinking my husband probably just thinks I'm like making this up or something so that I can get out of cooking dinner or get out of this or get out of that. And I know that that's not true because my husband knows me, but like I still felt like that was like what he was gonna think about that happening. And anyway, of course, I still couldn't put any weight on it. I most certainly couldn't cook dinner. It was actually my daughter's birthday that we were there for. It wasn't on her actual birthday, but so we were having everybody over for spaghetti dinner, and I was supposed to cook it, and there was no way that was happening. I mean, my ankle was so swollen. It was black and blue. I could not put any weight on it. It just would not work. And so I made an appointment the next day with a podiatrist. And 4 days later, of course, I went and they found the break. But it was so hard, like walking around. Like that night, I looked on our neighborhood page and I was able to find somebody who had an e-scooter so I could more easily get around. And my husband, of course, rode on it and thought it was the funnest thing. And I was like, whatever. And I just remember thinking like, gosh, he has to take care of me like I'm an old lady. And this is so embarrassing. And before I had an actual diagnosis, I was like, gosh, he probably thinks I'm just so lazy or such a wuss or whatever. And I know logically that's not true. My husband and I have been together forever. And lazy is not a word he would ever describe me as, but it just felt that way. And so when you do have to rely on other people so heavily, which I did at that time with him, it just felt so wrong, you know? but there's nothing I could do about it. So all right, so I'm going to use this tip on this squeeze bottle, and I'm going to, and I am going to line this floral. I'm going to bring this up just a little bit. Just this one, so that I can show you the foiling process, and then I'm going to log off because this live has been going on for almost 3 hours. Okay. So I'm going to start by apparently making a blobby mess, because that's what happens with these things. But just tracing around this line that I've made for these petals. I super duper hate the blobbies, but I have yet to find a better way to do this. You certainly could paint it, but I also don't like the painted look. This is adhesive sizing, so when it dries, it'll be sticky. And we will put gold foil. I actually might do a different kind of foil this time. I have one that's kind of like an orangey, burnt looking sort of foil that I think might look pretty cool. So I was thinking maybe that one might be a nice one to try. Definitely wishing I had gone the acrylic route with these lines. So blobby. Which I suppose for an abstract is okay, but for once I just want some nice clean lines, and I don't want to have to use one of those drafters thingies to do it with, because I don't like those. All right. These are what I'm talking about. I forget what it's called. Oops. I don't like using these. Okay, I'm going to use some Q-tips to clean up some of these blobbies, because ain't nobody got time for these big blobbies. Thanks, Lori. Yeah, I think I'll either try to finish it over the weekend or save it or save it till Monday, because I had so much more I wanted to do to this. But sometimes I just get so excited when I decide on a project that I'm going to do, and then I don't realize how long it's going to take. And then my hunger kicks in and I'm like, oh, it's 11 or it's almost noon in this case and I need to eat something because I'm freaking hungry. And then I'm like, I do have things to do even though I'm an unemployed freeloader. So maybe I should actually go do those things. All right, let me dry this. Okay, just cap this before anything happens to it. Oh, so the adhesive is dry before you apply the foil. Yes, so it goes on like a milky white watery substance and then it dries as a sticky clear substance. Okay, so let me show you what I have here. I have rose gold, which would be interesting, but I'm not married to it. But then what I have is this, which is what I was thinking of using. Let me, because I don't use these for anything, so I kind of feel like maybe I should. It's like it has these burn marks in it that are pretty cool. All right, let's do it then. Let me see if I can get one that's not ripped. Had these for years. Yay for finally using them. I mean, clearly I've used them for something, but it was probably resin related, because I've never used these in an art piece that I can remember. All right, so let's, almost looks like a flower. All right, I'm gonna take this piece here and add it here. I'm going to take this piece here and add it here. This should have had some stick to it. And that should also have some stick to it there. All right, let me put this away. Here we go. Let's go. I'm gonna close this so it doesn't fly all over into that. All right, so I'm gonna start by getting some of these larger pieces off. I need to turn my fan off too so they don't go flying everywhere. Yeah, if you try to put the foil on before the sticky stuff is dry, it won't stick and it'll make a huge mess. Because then it eventually does dry, and then it's just a sticky, ugly mess. Okay, I'm digging this, the way this turned out on the flower. I'm just saying. Yeah. Now, I can tell there are some areas here that still need to have the foil ripped in certain places. Mainly right in here. Like right there. And I'm pretty sure this right here, oh no, that's sticky. All right, I'm gonna need to put a little piece over that. That way it's got some sticky on it. Okay, so there is that piece. Now, if I zoom out of this, here, I'm going to bring you guys all the way back up so you can see what this looks like from above. You can see just how pretty that is. Normally I would have used gold, but I'm glad I stepped out of my comfort zone for this, because that really just livens it up so much. It's got a little bit of everything. And you can see just how much that shimmer just wakes it up, especially when it pops it off the background. Now, this is not done at all. There's still so much I want to do to this, but it has been 5 seconds short of 3 hours. So I'm going to go because I'm hungry. But this has been super fun. And I think what's next for this is going to be doing the same thing to this side, of course. And then probably adding some darker indications of shadows of other florals in the background. Maybe some doodling. I might not doodle this one. We'll see. Yeah, definitely bringing in some stuff in the background so that these kind of come forward instead of sitting on the background, since the background is so similar to the foreground. Maybe bringing in some little circles of things that are reflective. And of course, trying to get rid of, oh, there it is, of these whites here, these white watercolors, without destroying the watercolor background. So that's going to be fun to try to figure out. So it's been fun, everybody. I hope you had fun today. And I will keep you all posted on that discount code for Artistic Isle watercolor. I will post it to my feed. I'll post it in my stories, and I will send those of you that I can remember the code directly. No pressure. Again, I am not an affiliate, so I do not earn any income from if you purchase it or not. So no pressure there. And if you need any recommendations on color names, I can give you the color names that I used for this one or anything like that. And I think that's pretty much it. So I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. I don't know if I'll have time to go live, but I will try. And that's it. All right, everybody. Have a great weekend. And I will see you later. Bye.